firing it up. Let's get into it. Week 36. Thanks for being here. It's a little slow this week. I wonder if you guys are slow in your shops where you're working at, but got this 2014 Tahoe. Came in for an oil change, and the customer says my check engine light is disturbing me. Please help me. See why the check engine light's on. I'm gonna guess purge valve stuck on, evap code, like a vent valve, a purge valve type of thing. It's got 107,703 miles on this 2014 Chevrolet Tahoe. From the front, it looks like a 2005, 2007. I guess they didn't change them much. There it is, 2014 Flex Fuel 5.3. Go into diagnosis, see what we find. Let's find a good angle of the dangle. There you go. You guys see yourselves in there? Engine control module. Read fault codes. There it is. Engine oil pressure sensor performance. Aha! So that means it doesn't like what the oil pressure sensor is doing. The customer did mention that he checked the oil and added oil, and he may have overfilled it because he was nervous about his oil pressure. So that's probably what's going on with that. Let's take a look in the data. Freeze frame failure records, engine oil pressure. I'm gonna look at the freeze frame, which gives you a little cut of time to show you what happened, where it was. 5.4% throttle, brake pedal, calculated catalyst temperature, 1,000 degrees, cam position, cruise. We'll go into the live data right now and see where we're at. Now we can select what PIDs we want. We're going to go into engine data. We'll find engine oil level, temperature, pressure. That's probably the only ones we'll need. But let's take a quick cruise through here just to see. Yeah, let's look at those. And we're going to put this on graphing mode because, like I keep saying, I like the graphing mode. Just you won't miss a glitch or something if it happens. Start it up. Now our oil pressure is about 25, 26 at idle. 700 RPM. Oil level's okay. Gauge is showing 20 some odd pounds. It's about right. It's come down about 22 now. It's idling at 590, 600 RPM. Let's go inside to Identifix and see what it says about this trouble code. I'm going to take a screenshot of the oil pressure data, and I'm going to refresh my memory on this code, 521. Let's go take a look. All right, a quick peek in Identifix, and I'll probably make some people who watch my channel mad. I've had a few people who don't realize how the flat rate world works, and they want me to work like the way Pine Hollow, you know, Ivan from Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics works, and resolder oil pressure senders and BCMs and stuff like that. But the problem is labor, the cost of labor, and the cost of diagnosis. Like with Scanner Danner and a lot of the other YouTube channels that you watch, they'll spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours testing a $60 part. That's not how it works in the real world. That's great for YouTube videos, and that way people learn theory of operation and how all these systems function. But it's not productive when you're trying to make a living, and it would be way more expensive for the customer, right? So this is a perfect example. This is why I bring this up. The test and procedures for this, they want you to hook up an oil pressure gauge to where the oil pressure sender is, which is behind the intake manifold. So basically you have to take the intake manifold off, remove the oil pressure sender, put in a T, hook in your oil pressure gauge, put it all back together, put the intake manifold back on, and check the oil pressure. Obviously there's a screen under the oil pressure sender on these that filters the oil again before it heads to the variable cylinder displacement system. So you have to check that screen while you've got it apart. You put it all back together and read your oil pressure. If you do have low oil pressure and the sending unit and the gauge are accurate, then you have to remove the oil pan and check the pickup O-ring, because the O-rings tear in these apparently, and go from there. If the pickup is okay and the sending unit tests okay, the oil pressure is low, it may have engine wear on the bearings. It says 107,000 miles, which is nothing for these LS engines. They'll go 300,000 or 400,000 miles usually. So you get to where it's a big, gigantic snowball. You know, I could easily make this customer spend $1,000 in labor diagnosing a bad oil pressure sender switch, or I could put an oil pressure sender in it and see if it fixes it. If I did it the way a YouTube channel that wants to be praised for their thoroughness does, then it would cost the customer $1,000 extra. But if I do it the way I'm used to doing it, before I'm making a YouTube channel trying to impress everybody, then I would put an oil pressure sender in it and put a new filter under the oil pressure sender. There's a little filter about that big. It looks like a little thimble. When you pull the oil pressure sender out, you pull that filter out, you put a new filter in, put a new oil sender in, and this car will probably be fixed. So now we're at a crossroads. Do I try to impress all you guys with my thoroughness on all that work it would take to do an oil pressure test and see how the system's working? I could take the sender out and ohm it. I could do all those kinds of things. Or I could just put those parts in there and see if it fixes it, which would make me a parts changer, right? So you guys think I should make the customer spend $1,000 more so I look like a better mechanic? Or should I save the customer money and take an educated guess, seeing as how 95 out of 100 times the oil pressure sender fixed these vehicles? You see what I'm saying? So that's the thing. That's what we got to deal with every day on a daily basis. We're always weighing our experience, our opinion, flying by the seat of our pants, trying to get things fixed. My goal is to show you guys the real world, not how awesome I am. I'm going to go up front, explain all this to them up front, and see if they want to take the intake manifold off and hook up an oil pressure gauge, or if they want to put a sender and a screen in it and see what happens. And we'll go from there. Just here at Tahoe, we're going to do the filter, the Valley lifter filter, and the oil pressure sender. We're going to rock it from there and see how it goes. Customer has been advised. We got my main cable out of the way. Goes to the alternator. It can be tricky and wrap it with a towel. You don't have to disconnect the battery. Just make sure you don't touch it on any metal. I'm going to blow some dust and dirt off around the area. They even moved the they used to run these coolant hoses through the throttle body, but they no longer do that. Just crosses over. So now you can leave the throttle body attached and lift it off with it. 8mm bolts. And this thing gets lifted out of there.
Huh? You already got parts for this one? I ended up there bringing them out to you, or what the hell? So you have not gotten anything for this car? Boy Live.
The White Lot. $380. I thought the Milwaukee one was expensive at $189. Snap-on's only air. Show me your papers. They're right here. That's all 8 of them are right. Same procedures last time. Blow the heavy dirt out of the way. Wipe it down with brake clean on a rag. No grinders or scotch lock pads or any of that silly stuff, because you're ruining the finish on the heads. So it's the same procedure as last time. When I get done, I'll pull the paper towels out and blow in the chambers, so in case a little piece of dirt here and there got through the paper towels, I'll blow them out after I remove the paper towels. So there you go. One cylinder each side. You can hear there's a valve open. Get in there. I know it fits. It came out of there. The big problem is the bolts hanging down and stuff. All the little bolts tend to want to catch on stuff. Take them out, I guess, but I just don't like to. I'd rather jiggle them around and get it into place with them in there. Getting close now. There's one hung up. There it is. Oh, look at you guys all sideways, twisted around and stuff. That's terrible. The gaskets are still in place. They didn't get knocked off. Get them all started by hand before you get all crazy with your power tools. I'm gonna see what happened with the new stuff in there. Customer said, hell no, I don't want to pay you to take the manifold off twice. He said, just the parts are like $40. Let's go ahead and throw the parts in there and we'll see if it fixes it. He said, I'd rather spend the money on that and take a chance than you definitely have to do it twice. He said, if you might have to do it once, let's try that. Clear the codes first. So the customer said intermittently the oil pressure gauge would go down to 0 and the check engine light would come on. So he was pretty nervous about that. Hopefully it won't do that anymore. I'm showing 26 PSI on average on the scan tool now. Running good. Still needs an oil change, so I'm going to do that before I get it too much hotter. I want to get some warmth in the oil to circulate it a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and change the oil, and then we'll see how it runs after that. Castrol Kid changing the oil on the Phenomenon 14 Tahoe. Got me a new filter going on and everything. Napa Gold standard. We're going to go ahead and take away the micro guard. Although that does say a maximum efficiency, maximum protection, which is contradictory. If you guys know anything about filtration, the maximum protection is the least efficient, and the most efficient is the least amount of protection. Same as an air filter. Let's get this oil change knocked out. Six quarts of delicious honey. Put this belt on in real time, see if we can do that without editing. And believe it or not, I'm using a Capri ratchet. Some people say it's substandard and won't cut the mustard, but it's been working good for me so far. Old school. Uh-oh, the new one's way bigger. Got the part number off of it, but still got the wrong belt. Okay. You just got a little taste of the flat rate world. Nice. Now it's time to dance up front. This here Prius. Customer had a cat stolen about, I don't know, I guess it's been 10 months, 8 or 10 months now. Something like that. It was cut off and he started up. It sounded like a race car. He brought it in. He said, "This thing sounds like a damn race car. What the hell's going on?" So we fixed it for him. Made in Canada. Got him aftermarket exhaust, aftermarket cat. The factory stuff was very expensive. So someone's done other stuff to it too. It looks like it's kind of strange. I don't know if we did all of this. Or if we just, I thought we just did the cat. But anyway, he said, "I hear a weird rattle now," and the people that changed my oil said it was the cat. Yes, it is. Oh, that's a bummer. So now we got to call and get a warranty. Canadian aftermarket cat. That was interesting. The customer's already gone, but the customer with that Prius, he bought that car from a Toyota dealer. The customer that used to own it, we put the cat on for, traded in at the Toyota dealer, and he bought it from the Toyota dealer, and they gave him the Carfax information, which told him that we put the cat in, and he came in here wanting it free. We told him we could get the part warranty, but not the labor. So he says he would let us know. Kind of strange. You buy a car used from a dealership, you find out where parts were put on and go try to get them warranted. I thought it was pretty nice of the new owner to tell him we'd get the part warranted. So, but he wanted everything warranted. So we'll see what happens with that. But this one here, customer states Dodge Journey 2013, I think it is. Said it suddenly overheated on my wife. We saw coolant on the ground. I'm like, that's terrible, but someone's obviously been working on it. It's got a new water outlet housing. Got brass fittings in the heater hoses to bypass stuff. Worm clamps everywhere. So it looks like someone's been working on it. It didn't suddenly overheat. So let's see what happened with this one. I'm gonna take a look. Could have been something as simple as they worked on it themselves and they don't know there's air in it. Could be a blew the head gasket. It could also be a radiator leaking. So we're gonna find out. Oh, that doesn't look good. Yep. Radiator looks like it's exploded, or the plastic that it's held in is. Why would that plastic be broken? Let me take the radiator cap off, get some coolant in this thing, see where it pours out. I'm guessing it's going to be gushing out on the ground somewhere because it's empty. Basically, the overflow is empty. Normally on these, I would put my pressure tester on there and see if it has any obvious leaks first. But my ATD coolant pressure test kit doesn't fit this radiator cap design. Very unusual. So what I'm going to do instead is see if the fan works with my scanner. If I know the fan works, then it probably has to have a leak and I have to find a way to pressurize the cooling system. Maybe one of the other guys has a the old school pressure test kit that worked with conventional caps. We'll come back. I'll get this thing into fan control mode and then we'll try that test. Those are our codes. Bank 1 cam position slow response. Engine coolant temperature sensor high, 118. It came in smoking and steaming, Bill was just saying. So got quite a few codes in there. TPMS codes, AC codes, blah 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 blah. We're gonna clear them all. We're gonna pick PCM. Now we're gonna pick actuation tests. Now we're gonna pick radiator condenser cooling fan state. Spinning slow, but it's spinning. Yeah, now it goes a little faster. And we'll try high speed. Usually if low speed works, high speed works. And if low speed works, it won't overheat. State 2. There we go. So the fan works. So now I know I got two possibilities. One, all this work was done and the air wasn't properly purged, or something else is leaking. So I gotta find a way to do the pressure test like I usually would do first. I skipped that step just to see if the fan works because it was easier to do for now. And I'm gonna have to borrow a tool and do that. Pump the shit out of that thing, Bill. Come on, come on. The snap-on pressure testers. Oh, something.
I can hear it. I can hear it.
Oh, there it is, the radiator.
Oh.
That crack is the radiator.
Oh yeah.
I thought that crack was the radiator support.
That's what
It looks like the radiator tank exploded and broke the radiator support. That's a bummer. I spotted that first thing and I said, oh, that's just the bracket that holds the radiator.
It doesn't look like it's part of the radiator.
Yeah, it's in front of it, but the radiator tank must have expanded so much it broke the plastic there.
Cool.
Because I looked, none of the bolts were messed with for the condenser, and I could see the radiator wasn't new from the front. So this monstrosity needs a radiator. Thank you, sir. I appreciate the use of your wore-out snap-on pressure tester. The ATD one is a much cheaper version that doesn't fit, and the snap-on is a wore-out version that fits and worked at least after some pumping. Technically, Bill pumped the shit out of me. All right, so we got a few things accomplished. We know the fan works. We know the radiator's leaking, and Bill got his cardio. Everybody wins. All right, Dodge Journey approved the radiator, and they said, hey man, I bumped the labor up a little bit for you, so you get a full 2 hours. You got to do an evac and recharge, and take the front bumper off, and then you can get to the radiator and condenser and lift it out, and separate them on the ground, and swap all the parts over. It pays 2 hours. I don't understand what they're doing with these labor guides to us, but if I can't get this thing done in less than 2 hours, heads are gonna roll around here. Look at this. Uh-oh. She did hit something. Okay. We'll find out what we see when we get underneath there. Just got to figure out the theory, the thought behind putting the stuff away like this. The tiniest loops possible. Jeez Louise, man, what the heck? This was done by somebody who used to get yelled at by their dad for not rolling up the garden hose. So they'd roll it up really tight so their dad would be mad and stop bugging him about it and do it himself next time. Only 2 little 7mm bolts on each end, and the rest are plastic clips, it looks like. Yep. And this broken stuff from where she hit stuff. I'm not worried about that part. I gotta say, I was complaining about the 2 hours, but that bumper came off pretty quick. I'm only about 15 minutes in. I got the AC discharge and the bumper off, so it's not too bad. Don't be a crybaby. Customer said, I think my wife hit something. I think he's right. If you ever have to do a lower hose on one of these, you basically have to remove the radiator to get it off. The clamps between the mount, the radiator snaps into the plastic radiator support. It's all plastic. The radiator snaps into it, and the clamp is between the mount and the radiator. I couldn't get to the radiator clamp until I pulled it back about 1.5 inches. Because from the front you can't reach it. It's too far in the hole. Unless you got one of those clamp tools that goes in about 3 or 4 inches on a 90.
Right. Yeah.
There's no way to get to it. 2 hours. Every car is 2 hours. super easy to straighten out a tweak condenser. You just go like this. Look at that. Now like brand new, almost, except for where it's bent over here too. Look at that thing. Now it amounts to the new radiator without cracking anything. Alright. And no matter what people tell you, this Capri ratchet works just fine. I've been using it for 3 months without a problem. So it's some people insist you have to spend a lot of money to get good tools, but sometimes you do, but not always. I put a pretty good amount of tension on these belts because there is a break-in period and they will seat a little bit and stretch a little tiny bit. They mostly, there's cord in there so they can't really stretch, but the rubber seats in and when it beds in, the belt will get slightly looser. So you want to give it a little extra, a little more than you'd probably normally need. This ground fell out of the
CDC
mount.
in the state of Florida now recommend that all non-vaccinated people report for testing. Joe.
This is supposed to be up in here. I don't know why it wasn't. Must have, the ground cable fell out. It should be on an eyelet. It's just on a spreadable. That's no good, man. That's the main battery cable. Jeez. I wish it was on a separate bolt. It should be on a bolt to the back of the alternator case or something like that. Maybe I can find a bolt for him and stick that in there permanently, because otherwise he's gonna have all kinds of cool problems. Make sure that he's gonna have a ground that won't spin with the bolt. I'm gonna put this in between the alternator and the spacer where it won't get spun by the bolt as I tighten it, and then I'm gonna ask if they want to do anything to fix that so it's better. That's not going anywhere. I still don't like it, but at least it won't go anywhere. Probably better than it was before. I loosened that bolt only a turn or so and this fell out. It couldn't have been very tight. Alright, let's go up front and ask about it. I asked them up front about it. They said, don't worry about it, ship it. They said, look at the way the washers are stacked up over here. They're like, you got stuff like that, and I think he's worried about where the ground cable is. I said, well, he will be when it won't start someday. Hopefully it starts up for a while now and you don't come back mad at us about it, but it's going to eventually be a problem. By the way, for the people who like to spend a lot of money on tools and think you absolutely have to, I use Sunex sockets, Sunex SAE sockets, and a Capri ratchet, and it worked flawlessly. Haters gonna hate. I might be there someday too, but for now, they're working fine. I haven't had a problem. Once I do have a problem, you guys will know about it. Burns a little early. Knock is certainly disconcerting, but belt's on. I gotta tell you guys, I see a lot of people on the internet talk about how old cars are so much better than new cars, and nothing could be further from the truth. But I mean, I love old cars, the nostalgia, the memories when I was a child, but I mean, if you got an old car and you think that's the best thing ever and new cars are junk, then more power to you. But you know, I see cars now that are 2017s with 300,000 miles on them, commercial use vehicles and stuff like that. I mean, you didn't see that in a half-ton truck in the 70s, 300,000 miles on them. But the car also has airbags, ABS, anti-lock type stability systems, climate control, smart cruise control. You can use a button to push the starter on. You don't have to get your keys out. It automatically locks and unlocks for you when you approach it and when you leave it. You know, it'll send a text to your phone if someone tries to break into it. You know, the list is long. All the seatbelt systems, the crumple zones are safer. I mean, new cars are so much better, it's not even close. I won't even debate it. I mean, if you're nostalgic and you like old cars, that's great. But old cars need a lot of love, man. Oh, it's like Christmas. Looks like Santa came. Look at that beautiful radiator we got. This is the first one of these I've done. Radiator just snaps into the mounts. There's no bolts. Interesting contraption. It even looks like the right radiator, man. Woohoo! We're banging on all cylinders today. You got the right parts on 2 out of 4 cars. That's 50% batting average. It's not that bad. That's the reason you can't take the condenser out separate, because of this one bolt. You can't get to in the vehicle. Next to the frame. Now you got to try to get that on there so you can release the clamp and then put it on the mount. Much easier without the hose attached, but you got to do the hose first. This hose clamp tool is taking a beating. It's like a giant Lego. Now, I'm not fixing this headlight just because I have a YouTube channel and look like a superhero. I'm just fixing it because that's how I roll. I would fix it no matter what. I'll show you guys what I'm doing if you want to see. Try to melt this back together a little bit. Just don't want the headlight rattling around and bouncing and falling out on her while she's going down the road. And she really needs a new headlight, but that'll be a temporary fix. 2 other bolts too, but those are slightly cracked. So now at least it's not bouncing around. Yeah, this is what we in the welding industry call stacking dimes. You know what I'm talking about. That's how you do it right there. It's gonna be like a brand new car. Well, at least it won't have a leaking radiator and the headlight won't be falling out. I'm gonna fill it with coolant, check it for leaks before I put the bumper on. I don't normally mark the hood latch because there's already witness marks left by the washers. So as long as you get it on those very, very close to those, doesn't even have to be exact. As long as it's close. One thing I miss about the snap-on was the rocker switch. I could have changed that without having to stop. That's that. That hood's staying closed. So far, so good. Whew, almost spilled it. Stayed on the rim. We're all right. Stayed on the Pacific Rim. It's a pretty good sign that it's not leaking when it takes forever to go down and the bubbles, you wait for bubbles to let the coolant drop and you don't see any drips underneath. You definitely don't have any big leaks. You got to either put the pressure tester on it or be willing to run it and get it hot and check it for leaks, which if you do have a leak, then it's hot. So it's better to put a pressure tester on it and see first. I'm pretty confident, so guess what? I'm putting a bumper on this thing and I'm gonna run it and see what happens, because otherwise I gotta borrow Bill's pressure tester again. My adapter don't fit, right? Remember that, right? Maybe I gotta buy another tool. Add an oil change too, because of that cam timing code. And of course it's 1.5 quart low as well. So we're gonna go ahead and change the oil and filter. Throw a fresh sticker in there. The oil looked nasty and it was low, so which is I don't really care for these cars. The matter what brand of car you have, if you at least show it a little love and do a little bit of maintenance, like, you know, oil changes, checking things out, looking for, you know, looking at your belts and hoses and wiper blades, making sure everything's in decent shape for, you know, if you got to take a trip all of a sudden the next day because of an emergency and you don't maintain your car, it's just not a good recipe. That's all I'm saying. Just show your car a little bit of love, as if you don't have the money to buy a new one every couple of years. What a hokey setup this is. They had to have hired European engineers. Nothing against my European cohorts, I'm just saying. That's all she wrote. It's held on by some clips and stuff. It's fine. So it holds the top of the front bumper on these little fork clips. And not even the right size. Looks like from the last collision she had, they just used whatever they had handy. Fixed it in the driveway. That's not funny. 3 push pins held the bottom on. Don't even need a tool for the oil filter. When people tell you, you gotta pre-oil your oil filter O-ring, otherwise it'll never come off when the next guy does it. What do you see up there on the gasket surface of the oil filter mount? It's oil, right? All right, that's what I'm talking about. What happens is people over tighten them, and all you got to do is get touched, front, about 3/4 of a turn or so. Sometimes a turn, you'll feel it. Next time this car comes in, spin it off, no problem. And you can say, you don't know what you're doing. I've been doing it that way for 40 years. Thank you very much. I'm gonna let this oil drip out as much of it as I can because it was nasty. Probably been 15, 18,000 miles since the oil was changed. They probably just keep adding it because it's got a little bit of an oil leak. Oil drain plug washers. Something that's baffled mankind since its creation 400 million years ago. I put a new one on if it looks at all sketchy, but I don't change them automatically every time. Use your judgment. If you're good at what you're doing, you've been a mechanic for a little while, you know what it's supposed to look like. If it's overly crushed or distorted, put a new one on. If it looks perfect, there's no point in changing it. This is gonna be so nice when we're done. Click, beep. Rain Man uses the cheat cord wrench. When this customer drives away, they'll be thinking, wow, does this car run good? And it's not overheating, which is always a bonus. I'm gonna guess the car is poorly maintained. It's gonna need air in the tires. So what I'm gonna do is put a special 78% nitrogen mix in there. 23 pounds. Probably costing 2 miles to the gallon. Thing should have 35 in it. At least in my book. It probably says 33 on the sill. You guys know the air pressure sticker? It's stuck on the driver's door jamb. It tells you what the air pressure is supposed to be. Of course, if you don't change your oil, you probably don't check your tires. And if you don't check your tires, you don't know there's a sticker on the door that tells you what the pressure should be. It's also in your owner's manual. And if you don't do any of those things, you're probably the kind of person that pays for nitrogen in your tire. Just saying, it's possible. That's how it works in my world. Because you guys know air is 78% nitrogen, right? 4.5 quarts of juicy goodness. Coming your way, baby. It's going to be okay. We brought you to the brink of death. And hopefully we'll bring in your bag. Need some of the sludge off the oil cap. Let's see what the oil level looks like. Right on the full line. It hasn't even started yet. You got to do a recycle. Get the system down to 15 inches of vacuum or more, because it won't let you put it in vacuum unless it sees 15 inches of vacuum or more. So once I do the recycle, I'm going to give it 30 minutes on a vacuum. I'll go work on the manifold on the Land Rover in the meantime. It's not like a big emergency because the other parts won't be here till Monday. The water pump. Now we're going to put the intake manifold in this monstrosity. It's got 6 individual O-rings that stick out quite a ways. I'm wondering if that's how the other one got damaged. It just lifted out a little bit and got pushed over and it didn't catch it. It should be easy from here, without the radiator in especially. You got to plug in some electrical connectors. There's 2 bolts on the bottom. Then torque all the bolts up there. And then I can Phone's ringing, guys. Then I can get my radiator in. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and try to fire this thing up. See what happens. Get a little chubby. All that good holiday eating. Oh, look at that, man. That thing. I can just hear it. I can hear it runs better. Oh, there's the oil change sticker. Oil change was due at 123,000. It's got 126. So, yeah. She went 3,200 miles over. But you know, the thing is, when you got the kind of money they have, just buy another one once you wear it out. No big deal. What a sarcastic bastard. That's nice. Air works. So they win in that department. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it off though. And go outside and monitor the circumstances the engine might be under while we're see what the current operating conditions are. This is the dual VVT 2.4 liter engine, I'll have you know. It's not the regular singular VVT. It's got two of them, so that's good. Alright, my fan finally turned on. This thing was running for 20 minutes. Goodness gracious. Nice hot air. So now I got my air pockets out of there. There you go. Hopefully I didn't have to edit out anything I found hysterical that I didn't think you guys would like this week. This Dodge Journey, the Lego snap together cooling system repair is all set. Fans already cycled on and off, so I know we're good to go. No leaks. Everything is fixed. I repaired the headlight and a couple of little things I saw while I was in. Just double checking. 12 foot-pounds. Alright. It didn't take us on there. Alright, we got to hook up two hoses on the right hand side, two hoses on the left hand side, and then there'll be one bolt on each side, and the fan electrical connector. Careful, stuff flying all over the place.
You know, maybe those jokes we had to play that we were putting together.
Ah, shit. Jimmy, are you protesting my extension cords?
Protesting your extension cords.
You plugging your radio in there to make me feel bad or something?
I'm plugging my radio in there so I have music when I have no outlets. How do you like that, mister?
I took my cords out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I didn't want Donnie to charge me for electricity.
I didn't know he bought us lunch today.
Yeah, that's fine. You didn't hear me think.
No.
I ain't front of you, Jimmy. I noticed you didn't say that.
I just figured you were talking about COVID or the vaccines or something, so I just tuned you out. I'm like, I know everything I need to know, which is nothing. Perfect.
Ignorance is bliss.
Exactly. Settle down. Oh, that makes you feel like click before you give up. That's where the electrical connector goes. And a screw there. And on the other side, a screw over there. I could put my plastic on and my bumper brace. It's easy. Note too that one side uses like a wood style screw, goes into plastic, but the other side goes into aluminum. The condenser's made out of, so that's a regular threaded bolt like this. It goes in from this side facing this way. It's easy. It doesn't matter if the bolt faces in or out. They can't make it so you can't do it.
Budget. Donnie was going to say no.
Stacking dimes. Perfect. Just trying to remember what holds the top of this air deflector in. And then I realized that these parts are still on the old radiator. New radiator doesn't come with them. I just assumed, and you know what happens when you assume. I make an ass out of me and me. and nobody else. Uh-oh, the other on. Now there's someplace for these to snap onto. The bottom's got a little pop rivet. Look at that thing. That's in. All the Lego pieces are going together. Now I'm just putting that cross brace on, and then we're calling it a day. I mean a week. I mean episode 36. A, B, and me are glad you were here for the week 36. Next week, episode 37, starting Monday. It's been a pleasure having you here. I appreciate you guys watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, because I upload one of these videos every week, along with 3 to 5 of the cars during the week. I'll have separate videos that are going to be much more involved in all of those repairs. And I'll see you in the next video. Be there or be square. You guys are awesome.